Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast. This week, I'm speaking to writer-director Andy Edwards. Andy's done a bunch of short films and feature films, and actually on IMDb, there's 4 films came out in the last 3 years. So he's very active. They're all horror, so I'm looking forward to chatting to him. Hi, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you. So let's dive straight in. How have you come to work in film production? Did you do a uni course? What was your sort of course into this?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roundabout journey, really. I did do a university course. I studied film studies back in the long distant past, but that was more a theoretical course than a practical course. Then I came out of there, and I had no contacts, no money, nothing. I don't come from a film production family. I don't come from a rich family. So I ended up going back to my hometown of Birmingham and working in a shop. So yeah, long story short, various jobs, nothing to do with film. Ended up in London, worked in radio for quite a while, lost that job, and was like, what am I going to do? And I remembered, remember when you used to want to make films? And I'd started to move into corporate video production at that time. So I was doing corporate videos for various people. And then through that, I got back into film and started making shorts. And then that led to the first feature film.
Lovely. That's an interesting point, I guess, for someone who's leaving university. Is don't be frightened of the corporate stuff and don't think, oh, I'm selling out, I'm not making feature films, because you're going to be learning stuff while you're doing those corporate gigs about equipment and about filming. So it's always worth, and you're making contacts as well.
100%, you need to support yourself financially. You are learning about kits, you're learning about equipment, you're learning about editing, you're meeting other people who are also into film. A lot of people who do corporates will also do narratives and stuff. And I used to work, when I was working at the radio station, I used to do corporate videos with them. And I was working with a guy there called Eben Bolter, and we worked on a short film together, and it was the first thing he'd shot as like a DOP, because he just bought a Canon 550. He's just shot Life of Chuck for who did that one?
Mike Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan, yes.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan. He shot some of The Last of Us. Won Emmys for it. So yeah, there's he started out in that world too.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So I saw you done a bunch of short films, and then the first kind of feature film you've got is Zombie Spring Breakers. So tell me about that and how that came about.
Well, that came directly from the shorts. I mean, that was kind of my practical film school. So the first, when I kind of decided to get back into filmmaking, and if there is any lesson for anyone, it's not too late to start. You don't have to be kind of straight out of the blocks at 19 and making stuff. I mean, some people are incredibly talented. People are at 19, but some people aren't. In my 20s, I was not making movies. So yeah, so the first kind of short I did when I got back into it all was a little zombie film called House Party of the Dead. We shot that in our flat in one afternoon. It's very much a kind of back to basics, just doing it for fun. But then that was so much fun. We ended up with 5 of these shorts, 5 of these House Party of the Dead shorts, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the last one, we had like 50 extras. So Eben, who went on to shoot The Last of Us, he shot it. So we were in, that was kind of like my mini film school, really, in the practical terms. Because when I'd gone to uni, because I am old, things like DSLRs didn't exist back then. You couldn't shoot digitally. You were either shot on video or you shot on film. So that was my kind of introduction to that world and learning everything. And so then, IBIZA Undead, aka Zombie Spring Breakers, was essentially House Party of the Dead, the movie. It was like learning everything I'd learned on all of these shorts, and they've been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, more expensive, more ambitious. So it was like, can we take all that and put it into a feature film? And why not set it in Ibiza as well? Because I mean, that kind of came from, thinking of, okay, if we're doing House Party of the Dead, the movie, where would you have the best house party? Oh, you'd have it at a villa in Ibiza. So that's where that came from. And then we figured out the practical nightmare of shooting in Ibiza afterwards.
So you actually did shoot in Ibiza?
But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a few interiors which are London, but pretty much everything else is on location in Ibiza. Not something I'd necessarily recommend.
Yes, that sounds like it could be difficult, although I suppose the advantage of doing that is everywhere you look is beautiful and is kind of a set almost. It's kind of like
Yeah,
you're
I mean, it's a
going to the location.
beautiful place to shoot, but I mean, it might be better now. This was a few years back now, but the island was geared up to one thing and one thing alone, which is partying. And so getting anybody on the island to do anything was literally impossible. You turn up at a location, you'd be like, oh, well, we've been arranged to be in here at 9 o'clock. And they'd be like, oh, no, Pedro, the owner, doesn't get up till 5 in the afternoon. And you'd be sat there with your crew not being able to get into the location. And then we had a young cast and a young crew. It was very much like trying to make a film on a club 1830s holiday. It was a lot of fun, but it was tricky. But it was very much a kind of go big or go home. A lot of people for their first feature will try and keep it small and manageable and things they know and places they know. And whereas, yeah, I was like almost kind of making up for lost time. So I was like, right, we're doing it on location. We're going to have 100 extras. You're going to have a special effects. Yeah,
Gonna
everything.
go for it.
Yeah.
So then let's go back to the beginning of that production. So how did you raise the budget for that? And can you give me a ballpark figure? What sort of numbers are we talking for that was spent on the film?
So this one, so I didn't produce this one, so I was just writer director, as I say. So the actual ins and outs of all the financials, I don't know for sure, but this was via a production company. I think friend of a friend or something like that put me in touch with a production company who'd made other sort of low budget British horrors and gangsters and stuff. And they really liked the idea, and then they raised the finance, through private equity. They were one of the EIS companies, and the EIS has changed a bit since then. If we want to go into the nerdy nuts and bolts with it, but this was just pre 2018 when they changed it, so you couldn't do it for a single film. So you could back then for a single film. So that's how that money was raised by a company called Temple Heart. They raised via EIS. The budget was maybe like $250,000, something like that, all together. Because obviously it's quite expensive to send everybody out to Ibiza, put everyone up for 3 weeks. So we didn't have a lot of money when we were there. All the money had been spent getting us there. Then it was like, right, which felt okay to me because obviously I'd worked on these no budget short films. So I was like, okay, I'm used to having no money. This is fine. But we are in a beautiful location, so let's go for it. So that was working with an independent production company, just as writer director on that one.
Yeah. Okay. And then so you made the film. They helped fund the film, got the film made, and then it gets into Fright Fest. And it gets a release. So let's talk about Fright Fest, because a lot of horror filmmakers can obsess over it and think it's kind of the be all and end all. I've got to get into Fright Fest. Got to get into Fright Fest. What did that have a massive effect, do you think, on the film getting out there? What was that experience like for you?
I mean, I was very much one of those people who, yeah, I was like, it's going to be into Fright Fest because I'd been going, as a fan, and I think it's good. It's good because it gives you something to aim for, really. It's like this is a good place to show it, and it's a horror comedy, kind of needed. It needs to be seen with an audience anyway. It's one of those films that, and you can see it in the reviews that came out afterwards. Anyone who kind of watched it in the room with a bunch of people, I think it played like a Friday evening, bunch of people, a few pints in, laughing at it. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that was good fun." And everyone who kind of watched it on their laptop on a Monday morning was like, "Really?" So yeah, it was always in my mind, but I'd never had a film there before or anything, and I didn't really know them at all. Now I've had, I think, 4 or 5 films play at Fright Fest, so I know the guys now. I know how it all works.
Mm.
Um, and I still will have Fright Fest in mind, one of the Fright Fests, as a good place for launching a film in the UK, because you do get a lot of press off the back of it. And it's a very swamped market out there at the moment. It's a very crowded world. Content in general, there's too much content, and then independent horror films, there's a lot. So anything that can give you some kind of name recognition, I think, is super useful, because I think horror fans, even if they don't attend the big festivals, will still keep an eye out and still recognize the names of films that play at festivals. Um, so I think if you're working in horror, I think the festival circuit is very important. Whether, it doesn't have to be Fright Fest. There's lots of other good festivals in this country and around the world. But that is where you can plug directly in to your very core audience.
Yeah.
And these people are dedicated. They
Yeah.
live
Do
and
do you
breathe.
think with that festival crowd, because like you obviously you know the people at Fright Fest now, and I've seen on your films you've done a lot of different festivals, which is great. What's over and above having a good film? What else do you think you can do to get into those festivals and get on their radar?
I mean, getting on their radar, it is about who you know. Every festival's different, and you hear sort of the horror stories of some of the bigger festivals don't actually watch the submissions.
Mm.
Already planned in advance with distributors and sales agents and their own contacts. Fright Fest do watch everything. I do know that much. So yeah, it's about making contacts, and that's the other good thing that festivals are good for. You will go to a festival, you will meet other horror filmmakers. You might meet people from other festivals as well, because they're checking out films potentially for their festival. So yeah, it's having as many contacts as possible so that you can then go, "Hey, I've got a film," and message them directly. And sometimes they're like, "No, apply properly via Film Freeway," but sometimes they're like, "Okay, cool, yeah, I'll check it out," and it helps. And if they know you and know that you're a good person and you're going to come and do the Q&A and everything like that, then that helps as well. And if they, especially in the UK, if they know you're going to bring a crowd of people. So I mean, that's kind of one of the things to think about when you've got your film, is where is the premiere going to be? Because the bigger film festivals will all want a premiere.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be the world premiere, but they will want the North American premiere or whatever, and then you can go to the smaller festivals because they're not so concerned. They just want a cool film. But the bigger festivals will want the European premiere or what's. When you're planning your festival strategy, try and have that in mind. Of where would you like it? Where would you like your American premiere, your European premiere, your UK premiere?
Yeah, it's difficult because I can feel the frustration a lot of filmmakers have, especially with something like Film Freeway, is you kind of enter this stuff can be quite expensive,
Yes.
and if you haven't got those contacts, you don't know anyone, you're sort of firing stuff out into the dark. I've done a video on film festival strategy, which hopefully, if anyone wants to check that out, that's a good one for thinking about stuff like that. And absolutely, like you say, going to those festivals, making contacts, showing them your face, showing that you're not just applying just to get a rosette on your poster. You actually want to be actively involved in that festival and help them sell tickets and get people along to the screenings. So the other thing I noticed about your stuff, I know this is not me insulting other horror filmmakers, but it looks quite high quality. And with horror, you get varying qualities of stuff. So, what are your tips to make a high quality horror movie? And I mean the look and the sound and the sort of everything about the project?
Yeah, I mean, it is quite important to me. I mean, yeah, like I said, I come from this kind of corporate video background, and so I kind of understand audio and visual. Um, I think there's no excuse for a film to look bad these days with the technology that we've got, and I don't think there's any excuse really for a film to sound bad either. I mean, with the AI noise reduction now, you you know you can record the whole thing on your phone, and you can still get it to sound good if you, as long as you put the work in. Um, Films are very much a visual medium for me, and yes, so the look of a film is super important. And it's about putting the money up on the screen. I mean, it's a phrase that you've probably heard a billion times, but I think that is the important thing. Is nobody's gonna the stuff that you spend money on a film set, which you have to, food and travel and everything, but nobody sees that. Nobody goes, oh well, those guys had a great catering budget. Um, you have to look at the film, so it's getting a good DOP, um, good lenses, and lighting everything. And by lighting everything, being actual, putting some care and attention into each shot, really. It's easier said than done, but because modern cameras are so good, there's a very much a temptation to go, oh well, we can shoot in near darkness. Let's just do that. And you can, but it doesn't look pretty good. Um, so yeah, just putting some care and attention and some thought, um, hiring good people, and then making sure everyone's on the same page. So I'll always do like a little lookbook for how I see the film to look, what the colours are going to be, and then give that to the DOP, to the gaffer, to costume, production design, and hair and makeup, and just be like, these are some images. These are 3 films you should watch. These are our colours, and that doesn't cost any money to do. But then everybody's working to some kind of same thing, and that will pay off on screen rather than just going, "Hey, let's film in this place. Oh, it's got blue walls. There you go. It's got blue."
Yeah, yeah. The good thing about doing that as well, I find, because I do that, is it helps you in your own mind sort of solidify what the film is, how it looks, and what it's like. You kind of do that work for your own head as well as the rest of the cast and crew. Um, so then, so looking back at that first feature film, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, if you're giving advice to someone who's starting their first feature, what would you say to them?
It's a tricky one, because there was I had some disagreements with the production company on how it should go, and then obviously there was the chaos of the shoot, really. But yeah, I think it's a long game. I think I would tell myself, pick your battles, really. You're trying to get your first feature made. There are going to be some compromises. Pick where those compromises are. Pick the things that you need that you won't move on. Because then anything you can learn will take you through to the next one and the next one. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, there's dreadful stats about how many people never make a second feature,
Mm.
and people, I think, have a tendency to kind of put all their eggs in that one basket and be like, "This is my dream. This is the film I'm going to make," and then it either breaks them, or they do make it, but then it never makes any money, and then nobody's willing to look at the second one. If you do want to have any kind of career, then I think you need to be thinking of the first and your second and your third, and maybe you don't do your dream movie as the first one. You save that for when you've got a bit more money or a bit more clout. You know, it depends. Some people do make their kind of calling card movie with their first one, and it goes well, and then there's plenty of people who don't. So
Mm.
have a think about it as a long term thing.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at the rest of your filmography. So when you're writing these scripts, are you writing them for yourself? Are you writing them for the audience, or are you writing them thinking about sales and distribution? What's going through your head when you're putting these scripts together?
I mean, I think when I was putting IBIZA Undead together, that was, yeah, an audience in mind, but I knew nothing about sales and distribution back then. That was all a mystery, and I'd love it if that was still the case.
Yes, me too.
I've had to teach myself how that sausage is made because I think if you don't, you're going to become the sausage, be eaten for breakfast. So I've had to learn sales and distribution. So now I've moved into producing as well as writing, directing. Now sales and distribution is very much at the forefront of deciding which projects that we do. Back then, no, it wasn't. It was like, yeah, I just want to make a cool zombie film that people at Fright Fest are going to love, and it's going to have hot girls and hot guys and zombie gore and cool soundtrack. That was kind of all that was in my head. Just make something cool and people will like it.
Mm.
But now it's like, okay, well, how do you market it and everything? But even then, obviously, IBIZA Undead was a very simple pitch, so I'm always looking for that high concept. The zombies in Ibiza, it's a very simple concept, and so I'm always looking for that for all the things that we do. It's kind of, how do we sell it? Because that's how people are choosing films now. Apart from the very big stuff, everyone else is just looking at Netflix and they get a poster and a 2-line synopsis, and maybe they'll check the trailer out, and that's how they're deciding what to watch. So you have to have an idea that is going to work in that format. So when I'm looking at people pitch me projects all the time, if the shorter the pitch, the better. If you can say, oh, it's werewolves on the moon, brilliant. If you're like, well, there's a guy and he's doing this and he's doing this, but then he doesn't realize he's this and it's actually this, then good luck, but it's probably not for me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Werewolves on the Moon. That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm thinking of it as a good idea because werewolves come out in a full moon and they're living on the moon already. They're permanent.
It's amazing.
Werewolves.
It's got it all. It's got it all.
There you go. There you go. Okay, that's my next one.
Yes. So just thinking about projects. We talked about what you would. Oh yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. So this next slew of films you've made, you seem to be making one every single year. 2 come out in 1 year. How are you putting them together? Are they your production company? Are you getting someone else to finance them? And how are you keeping that momentum up?
It's a mixture, really. So to take it back to Graphic Desires, what happened was I had a bunch of projects in development, including a vampire movie, which was going to be my next one after IBIZA Undead. And then COVID happened, and like everything fell apart, or their projects fell apart. But I didn't want to be doing nothing. I was just looking after my 3-year-old basically all day, every day, because I had I had no corporate video work coming in either. So I decided to set up my own production company. And as I said, start learning how the sausage is made in terms of financing and in terms of sales and distribution. I kind of knew about the filmmaking bit in the middle, but I didn't know about the raising finance at the start and the sales and distribution at the end. So I was like, okay, we're going to start with something super small, micro budget thriller that we could shoot in COVID. So I kind of thought of this erotic thriller script because it could just be done 2-3 people in a room, super cheap, nothing crazy. And yeah, I kind of taught myself how that works. So that's when we launched Paranoid Android Films as a fully fledged production company. To date, we've made 4 movies, 3 of which I've also written and directed, and then one of which, Custom, which is this poster here, was written and directed by someone else, and I just produced. So yes, we've done a movie a year since then through the production company, and then there's been bits and bobs outside of that. Um, so I did a film called Cinderella's Revenge, which was a director for hire job. Midnight Peep Show, which is like a writer director for hire job. So yeah, been keeping busy, and a lot of
Yes.
those things were done either in COVID or after COVID,
Mhm.
and then they all came out at the same time. So it makes you look super busy, but maybe not necessarily always the case.
Yes.
And I think it's very useful to look busy, because if you look busy, then people will give you other stuff to do.
Yeah,
They will be
definitely.
like, "Oh, this person looks busy." So I think, yeah, whether you are or not, always look like you're working on something, and then other people will want to work with you because they think you're in demand.
In demand. And with the ones you're making for your production company, are you sticking at a particular budget level? And if you are, is that influenced by how much you think the film's going to make, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's a new consideration that has come into my thinking since I've been a producer, because I think very much how my conversations went, and I think how my conversations with other filmmakers at the moment are going, is they're thinking, how much will this film cost? But nobody's thinking, how much will this film make? And if you're in a lucky enough position to not have to worry about how much it makes, then that's fine. Because there's sometimes where people don't. Maybe it's from the BFI who like to lose money, or maybe it's funded by private equity who are in it for the art. They're like like a patron, and they just want this film to be made, and they don't necessarily want to make any money. In which case, great. Tell me how much it's going to cost. Um, but I'm not in that world. I'm finding money from private investors or from pre-sales, from distributors, and then it has to be all about how much it's going to make back. What's a reasonable, realistic aim for this film to make on the international market? Um, which is quite painful at times because you have to be realistic about it, and obviously every filmmaker who's not studied distribution will be like, oh no, well my one's going to go viral, my one's going to win some awards,
Mm.
and we're going to make 500 grand in Nicaragua alone. And you have to be, well, no, it's probably only going to sell to like 10 of those territories. And so here's a realistic figure. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking of now. It's reverse engineering from what it's going to make and what we can get, and then that kind of dictates the budget.
And are
Because a
you,
film budget is very, I think it's a very much a case of what have you got
mm,
rather than what you need. We'd all love to have, a techno crane on every day, but we, we could make the film without it.
yeah. And are you doing traditional, I say traditional sales and distribution? Are you going direct to a distributor via a sales agent, or are you doing all your own sales and distribution?
Well, that's a very good question to ask, and I wish I'd planted that question. Because so far for the first three movies that we've done, which was Graphic Desires, Punch, and Rumpelstiltskin, we have gone the traditional distributor route. But for this film here, Custom, which you can see a little bit poster of, at the top of the titles up there, we are trying a hybrid approach on that one. So it is coming out on digital in the UK and the US via an aggregator, and that's coming out next Monday as of time of recording. I don't know when this is going out. So from the 18th of August, that's going to be available on digital platforms in the UK and US, and that is a self-release via an aggregator, and then we're selling the rest of the world via a traditional sales agent. So we're doing our own marketing for UK and US, sales agents for the rest of the world. Because obviously, if it does sell to Thailand, for example, I couldn't do any marketing in Thai.
You could try. I'm
I
not sure
mean,
it'd
I
be
could
very
try,
good.
but it's not going to work. Whereas we do have contacts and everything. So yeah, that is the plan, and it's an experiment, I
Mm.
think, because obviously, when you're working in the low budget space and the margins are pretty low, and you've got your streamer taking a cut and your distributor taking a cut and your sales agents taking a cut, sometimes there's not very much over trickles back to the filmmaker. This is an experiment really, with this sort of hybrid model to see whether this works better than the traditional distributor model.
And you said on the previous three you went traditional. So does that mean you've found a trustworthy sales agent? And if so, who is it? Because I've spoken to a
Well,
lot of filmmakers, and it's a rare thing to find a company that or an individual who's worked with someone who highly recommends them. Yeah, they pay. Do you know what I mean? Is it? How have
well,
you managed that?
I mean, obviously you can look at who ours are with, and
Mm,
we haven't used the same sales agent twice, so
right.
that tells the story. But we
Yep.
have used the same distributor twice. So both Punch and Rumpelstiltskin are out with Trinity, who also go under the names Miracle Media and 101. So people probably know them
101.
best. People know them best from 101. So both Punch and Rumpelstiltskin are with those guys. So we've got a good relationship with those guys. Whether I will tell you all about the sales agents for custom in 6 months' time.
Yes. Let's
So
have
this
another
is
chat. See how
new.
it goes.
And again, the same with the aggregators. I'll tell you all about. I'll come back and do a follow up and say, yeah, these guys are great, or avoid at all costs.
Yes.
But yeah, it is a difficult thing, and I think you've touched upon a part of the industry that I knew nothing about when I started, and I think people need to educate themselves on, even if it's just a tiny bit. It's once you have made your film, you then put it into a pit of sharks, and hope you don't get eaten too much. And it's a strange world that has just become accepted, and just feel okay, yeah, you're gonna get ripped off. It's a strange thing, and you're oh, has nobody done anything about this in the however many years films have been going around? But yeah, obviously there are now options and alternatives with the self-distribution networks and all the various online. But it's a brave new world that I am just investigating.
Yeah. A lot of the filmmakers I talk to are either already self-distributing or moving into that space because for that very reason. And it's weird because that pit of sharks, it's been around so long, like I since our first film was made late 90s, and it was exactly the same. It was slightly different because there was less stuff about, but everyone was still there trying to kind of feast off of your film, and maybe you'd get a little morsel if you were very, very lucky. It's just a strange, strange world to be in. Last one, I'll ask you about the film you got coming out next week, 18th of August. What are you doing about promotion? Have you got a plan? Have you got a strategy as far as getting the film out there and getting people to watch it?
Yeah, so we've got various things. I mean, this is our first attempt at doing this, so it's all a learning experience. So yes, we hired a PR agency in the US. We're having a launch party next week, which I'll send you an invite to in case you're around.
Lovely.
Um, and obviously various social media promotions. It's going to also, as well as digital, we're releasing it on very limited edition VHS.
Oh, nice.
Because the film is about features VHS quite heavily in
Hmm.
it. So we thought that would be a nice kind of way to do a physical product. And hopefully there's enough people still have a VHS player. But I think the real kind of horror collectors will hopefully have them. So this film Custom played at Fright Fest Glasgow last year.
Hmm.
So hopefully the audience there will be aware of it. So we're going to go and do a bit of promo around that next week and be like, hey, anyone who missed it at Fright Fest Glasgow, it's now out and you can watch it. So yeah, it's an experiment really to see how it works. But hopefully it'll do well. It's an interesting film, and it's the first one that I released via my company that I haven't written and directed as well, and that's kind of where I want to get to. I want to be upping the production schedule, doing like 3 or 4 films a year, and I'll direct one, and I'll get in other directors, other writers, to do theirs. And we've got a slate already that we've built up that we're taking out to people, and just trying to build a brand really, trying to build Paranoid Android as a UK horror brand.
Lovely. Well, I wish you the best of luck with it. So I'll put a link to Custom all over this podcast so people can check it out and watch it. Hopefully I'll time the release of this episode as well with the film coming out. And I definitely want to have you back 6 months, 12 months from now, and you can tell me how it all went. You'll be sat there in a fur coat smoking a cigar because of all the money that's going to come in.
This time next year, Rodders, yeah.
I hope that was useful. If you're interested in learning more about micro and low budget film production, I suggest you check out How to Make an Indie Feature for $10,000 with Sean and Taylor King. They've pretty much got their own little production company and studio set up and make a film every year, get them out there and actually make profit on them. So it's a really interesting chat. See you on the next one.